So welcome everyone to our, what is it, 1, 2, 3, our fifth night of the 2026 March series of experimental intermedia. And we're incredibly grateful for the Emily Harvey Foundation to host us once again. This is not the first time, and we always love being here, especially for screenings. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Stuart Ginsberg with his documentary about Arlene Schloss, which is called A to Z, The Art of Arlene Schloss. And Arlene, who's a friend of many of you here, and who was a very great friend of experimental intermedia and of Phil Niblock. And I'm going to hand over the microphone to, but you should take that one.
Hello?
Yeah, so come here in the middle. Yeah, so, and maybe Stuart wants to say a few words to introduce the evening.
Yes, I want to thank everyone for coming. Thank Experimental Intermedia and the Emily Harvey Foundation for hosting this. I was very excited to hear they wanted to do it. And we've been to many different film festivals, 18. We won some really nice awards and recognition, which is great. And it's really about, I really want to show Arlene's work to as many people as possible. So thank you for coming. And let's get started. Thank you.
And we will have like a Q&A at the end if anyone has any questions or comments. So enjoy.
Photosensitivity is already triggered.
Yeah, okay. Emily. Yes.
WABC's WXX, WABC's WXX. It all began in a dream starting at Z, traveling through the glory rainbow, which is the vehicle of travel.
Arlene was the big star. I couldn't believe that this was somebody that I was meeting. She had done performance at MoMA. We were all like, not even near anything like that.
Modern Museum, Music Maniac, Maine, Mexico, Mary, Montana, Mode Modulation, Molto, Memory Moment, Magname, Mulch, Mucho, Magic, Mind-Boggling. Here Installation, J. Kelly Lachey's Metropolitan Newhouse, Op Pink, Queen, Rodin, Miss Torso, Underground Vibration, Well XY63, At Battle.
I think in English we use the same term that is used in German, that is ein Gesamtkunstwerk. And Arlene's work cannot really be divided into separate media. Is she a photographer? Does she work with language? Is she a painter, a drawer, an opera writer, a performance artist, a curator? She's done all of those things and has had a tremendous influence in the underground in New York.
Arlene Schloss was a visionary, to put it simply. She moved from performance art and video into cyber art and virtual reality. Again, Arlene always tries to reinvent herself, to move forward, find new ways of creative expression.
She was doing some very innovative work. She was doing things where she was having lasers, come out of her lips as she was talking, and using, technology in very early aspects of her own work. She was a video artist herself, and she had this whole language that she invented.
Arlene's work also was very interested in chaos theories.
I always like to call Arlene the godmother of performance art.
Arlene, first and foremost, is an artist's artist.
Arlene was always at the forefront of using, new technology. Arlene is an original. She put her work out there with a tremendous generosity and creativity. And I think other artists saw it, lifted from it, learned from it, and were mentored by her. And I think that was fabulous. I think there's something very special about Arlene.
Arlene Schloss first gained attention as a painter and a critically acclaimed performance artist in the 1970s and 1980s. For nearly 50 years, Arlene created groundbreaking experimental work across a variety of art forms: film, video, sound art, poetry, music, book art, cyber art, Xerox art, and mail art. She became an integral part of the New York art scene. Hosting salons and happenings in her Broome Street loft, Arlene influenced the lives of hundreds of artists who she mentored and introduced to each other. This is her story. Arlene Schloss was born in 1943 in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, and grew up in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. Her parents were artists and managed the gallery at the Plaza Hotel in New York City. Arlene graduated from NYU in 1965 and studied at the Bank Street College of Education, the Art Student League, and Parsons School of Design. Arlene began her career as a junior high school art teacher, a painter, and installation artist.
I started out as a painter, and the last paintings that I did were painting with my feet. I studied painting for 15 years as well, and I thought I was going to be a painter all my life. And what started happening was I felt that I didn't want just the product of my paintings to be shown, that I felt that the process should be viewed as well as the product. And so I started performance art in the early 70s, working with showing ideas as I was working on them. The piece that I did was called Shot Dot Shot, which was a series of 36 actions. Each action changed the visual, and I recited words such as, it's a pin, chewed, wrinkled, picked up, flung, dropped, folded, cut out, scribbled, starred, taped, ripped, signed, charred, printed, dusted, dirty, dried, trash, splash, slash. This was a series of performances that developed where I amplified the action of each material along with vocals. I did it at Franklin Furnace and the Kitchen in New York City, the Danny Keller Gallery in Munich, Germany, Cafe Einstein in Berlin, and the Basel Art Fair in Switzerland.
A year earlier, Arlene performed at the Bikert Gallery, where the Soho Weekly News described her voice as a combination of Patti Smith and Yoko Ono. Arlene performed in mainstream and alternative spaces throughout Europe. In the 1970s and 80s, she performed at the prestigious Betty Parsons Gallery, Franklin Furnace and the Max Hutchinson Gallery in Soho, the Levenschoss Gallery in Munich, and Liège, Belgium. In 1978, she mounted a multimedia spoken word piece at the Museum of Modern Art at a time when museums weren't showcasing performance art.
Self-tape upstairs volunteers wonderful Advent Arlene budget curate. David Education function gels handy idea junior Kaylee mailer no open. Piano Q room 6 space 13th utilized video walls X-ray yodel Z. Audio bark ceiling duly equipped freight gratis.
What I've done is I've written thousands and thousands of poems using the alphabet as my format. I use the alphabet from A to Z as a sentence structure. Here's one of my sound poems working with the alphabet. Oral audio, byword, chirp, dipod, earful, fizz, gabble, hear, ictus, jig, lilt, minute noise, odic, phonic sound, quip, roar, sonic tone, utter voice, yar, yar, yop, zing. So I work with meanings in alphabetical order, which changes the phrasing and the stanzas that we usually use in conversational speech. I work with rhythm and cadence as speech, and clarity, elocution, and warmth and love. I began working with the alphabets because I was influenced by children that I was working with in New York City public schools for 15 years, because I thought it was the simplest, clearest way to communicate to all ages, all generations, and all nationalities. I've worked with the alphabet in many languages and did performances in various countries, reciting alphabets and alphabet combinations. I find that the tone is the main element that I'm interested in, and the words are sort of like cues or codes which allow you to come into the tone and the feeling of what's being expressed, such as emotion and everyday life. Color, dun, or elope gloom. Ant alone, bit brown, can clock, did dapper eat extra. Fur, flute, gum group, hip,
Hey,
or guylet.
sorry. We had
Series of,
a little bit of a problem, so I'm going to go back a few minutes because I don't know why. I don't know where we are. Where were we though? Okay.
So I work with meanings in alphabetical order, which changes the phrasing and the stanzas that we usually use in conversational speech. I work with rhythm and cadence as speech, and clarity, elocution, and warmth and love. I began working with the alphabets because I was influenced by children that I was working with in New York City public schools for 15 years, because I thought it was the simplest, clearest way to communicate to all ages, all generations, and all nationalities. I've worked with the alphabet in many languages and did performances in various countries, reciting alphabets and alphabet combinations. I find that the tone is the main element that I'm interested in, and the words are sort of like cues or codes which allow you to come into the tone and the feeling of what's being expressed, such as emotion and everyday life. Color, dun, or elope gloom. Ant alone, bit brown, can clock, did dapper eat extra. Fur, flute, gum group, hip, hope, or guylet. I've done a series of over 300 performance works over the last decade with a number of different titles. My first performance in Berlin was called It's an A. The word it's has always been a very important word in my works, ITS. It's simple, it's descriptive, and it's catching. It's A, it's A, it's A, it's A, it's A, it's A, it's A. It's FIT, it's FDR, it's G, it's PG, it's R, it's X. It's G, it's I, it's G, it's M, it's HIP, it's HEW, it's HUD, it's H2O, it's HCl, it's IBM, it's IND, it's ID, it's ID.
In 1978, Arlene taught performance art workshops. She brought a group of 30 artists to the New York City subway and traveled up the east side of Manhattan, getting off at each stop along the way. Her goal? To make the subway safe through art and performance. She wanted subway riders, cops, and bystanders to interact and become part of the event.
This is to make the subways a little bit happier, a little bit brighter, a little bit more cheerful, and to let people know that we want to positive. Recording it? Oh yeah, we're documenting it. Yeah, video. Just to overcome fear. That's the main. And to feel some idea of camaraderie with other people.
What street is this?
34th Street!
On a whim, she called the New York Times, and it sent a reporter and photographer to document the trip.
We're leading an orchestra, a part of an orchestra on 59th Street. They're called the Ocarina Orchestra. The Ocarina Orchestra. We're going to be joining them.
Riding up the east side, the group was stopped by the police, curious about the spectacle. Before the event, Arlene prepped her fellow artists in case they were stopped by the police or harassed. Her advice? We should act friendly, smile, and act like we are in kindergarten. What can they do to us if we act that way?
Trying things out that maybe it would give people more positive ideas.
You find that amusing? Well, you're laughing, you know.
And we thought we'd try it, and then it worked out. We write a proposal to the transit authority.
While your concept is good, you're going to have them all milling around, and they're going to wonder what it's all about.
We're going to
So
start
if you can terminate it,
the downtown train, which we will board and head on our way.
you're really going to board a train.
Yes, we just came from one.
Heaven's a blessing.
Performance art was a very pure form. It came out of happenings, it came out of conceptual art, it came out of the thinking of John Cage. And although I really never met John Cage, I met the female version of John Cage there at the center of A's loft, and it was Arlene Schloss herself. She was my John Cage. Because Arlene taught, through her presence and through her art, that everything you do is art. That there is no need to push towards art. That you simply have to be yourself, and that's art.
I first met Arlene about, can't believe it, but it's at least 25 years ago in a recording studio where I was a sound engineer. And Arlene was doing a tape called How She Sees It by Her, or for short, How She Sees It. It was one of the greatest audio pieces that I've heard, and it turned my head around from commercial art to avant-garde art.
How She Sees It by Her, 3:00 a.m., June 6, 1981. He was in bed and he said, "Take off your pants. Why do you think I'm here? Because I want to fuck you. I want to fuck you tonight." She goes to the loo.
He was in bed and he said,
Why do you think I'm here?
"Why do you think I'm here?"
She asked, "Because I want to fuck you. I want to fuck you tonight." She goes to the loo. He was in bed and he said, but not in so many words. "I think that I'm nervous that your husband is leaving town. It throws off the balance of what, she wonders, his intrigue? Forget about that sweet fuck, baby. I think you're a bitch. You disappointed me and I'm turned off. I'm not fishing with you this week. I'm not going to take care of you either. Just in case you had any ideas about that. You must be getting money from him or your folks." He's snoring now. He kissed her and cut her throat simultaneously. She's a funny place in her mind at this moment. Bewildered and angry, she thinks about how she's taken care of herself at different times in her life. She's vulnerable yet strong. Her vulnerability is her strength. She likes to try different things. She was smart to save money while she was making money, and her savings have just run out.
Arlene has charisma, so she is able to gather people around. Her charisma comes from her warmth and her beauty and her very high intelligence. So she was kind of like a Diaghilev on the level of her production. She was like a John Cage on the level of her philosophy.
She was excited. She was like a magnet. You know, she drew people to her with her energy.
I mean, A's was where you had to be. A's was, the event, the scene. Having an idea, pulling it together, everybody doing, this person's going to play music, this person's going to do the artwork.
When we think about, Thurston Moore and people like Jean-Michel Basquiat who had a band, right? And people always think about, oh yeah, we saw him play, he used to play at the Met Club, he used to play at CBGB's. Yeah, he did that, but his very first kind of thing, just saying, I have this idea and I want to do this thing with this man, and not have to worry about it, was here in Arlene's loft.
Jean-Michel did a fantastic performance that was the most amazing music performance I had ever experienced. This kind of god-awful wailing started. And Jean-Michel strolled onto the stage playing bagpipes. The din was so gloriously, disconcertingly, and wonderfully awful that the audience began leaving in droves. And luckily, his performance was the last one of the evening. So that was okay. I personally loved it. It was fantastic.
It rocked.
It really did. It really did. And that was the finale of the first. That was the first performance at A's, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it got off to a fantastic start.
October 24th, 1979.
The Coachmen performed there with Thurston Moore. All of those people were revolving around that performing space. That whole scene was such an exciting moment because there was an actual cultural convergence of several different trends that took place.
Everybody's in a circle and they've got these long paper tubes and they're all kind of humming like Aboriginal stuff in these paper tubes. And there's Arlene doing her maestro thing in the middle of that was Arlene's talent. That was her beauty. That was a special thing that she did, and then she'd be, it's A, B, it's D, it's C, it's E, it's G, this is Mike, this is Joe, this is Maggie, this is, it's H, it's I, J, it's K, and we were like, where the fuck are we? What the fuck is this?
A's performance nights were just sort of, she encouraged people to come on and do things, come on and do your own thing, come on and do something that I'm going to suggest that you do. Just try it out. So a lot of people came here to do that, and it was kind of a free-for-all. I think I've said before that it was a performance night, but it was hard to tell where the stage stopped because it wasn't just about what was going on the stage. The whole scene was the performance art. And so people milling around on the back deck, watching the performance in the hallway, there was as much going on there. Friendships were formed, partnerships. I think we had Sir Roger Sir here, Gracie Mansion was here, Buster was here, Todd Jorgensen was here. It's all kinds of people doing different kind of things. We're here to get hooked up.
Yeah, I remember it was the third show of the night for me, man. And it was it's pretty raw shit. And everybody was really hating it, I remember. When I was there, when I walked in there to do something, of course, it wasn't a way. I mean, it's just, that's what you do. You do what you do. She's cool. She didn't come and say, these are the rules. There were no rules. She wanted you to do your thing. That was the key to the whole thing.
Exact.
That was the key to the whole thing. Although I do remember, not every gig I remember. I remember that one for sure. I remember the whole night. It's a very strange night. And I remember too, I got to Arlene, couldn't get a cab. was on sitting on 8th Street in Broadway. I don't know how I got there from the West Side, West Side, way West Side, official second show. Three of us stayed in this limo pulled up and said, "Do you need a ride?" I'm not kidding. From the Angels themselves, "Do you need a ride?" I said, "Sure do." "Oh, don't worry." Delivered me right on the Bowery, right to the room. That's how I got there that night. Didn't pay a thing. He just said, "Hey, I'm going that way. Do you need a ride?" Just like arrive on time, you know. I never would have got there. I'm pretty sure. So I couldn't get a cab, you know. So we're at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Who knows? 6. It could have been 6.
Well, I think because there was that period of time where New York was just sort of like broken, and it was kind of a wandering wasteland in so many ways. And all of these creative spirits just sort of came together and had that ultimate freedom at that time. And it really was inexpensive to live here.
New York really went bankrupt in the mid-'70s. And it's hard for people to hear today, especially with this humongous transnational real estate boom in New York, to imagine that the city was a frightening place. The subways didn't really run well. They were scary at night. There was a 20-25% vacancy rate in this area on the Lower East Side of the East Village, so that it would take you about 10 minutes to find an apartment, and you didn't even need to pay an agent's fee or have a credit check. You know, rents were 20% of your income, and you could make $200 a week and get by. There was a large peripheral underground economy that also fed on this, of like cheap food and drug dealers, and there was a tremendous narcotics industry. So there really was an underground below 14th Street that was a separate world that was in some ways idealistically self-contained, that kind of thing anarchists talk about now when they try to establish utopian communities. And it wasn't a very wonderful thing because it was based on poverty and on really almost large parts of the city having no housing at all, like whole sections of blocks that were vacant, or areas that were very scary to walk through even in the daytime. The irony with all of the economic doom, especially for young people, it was this wonderfully optimistic time. The leisure time and the lack of money pressure just made you feel expansive. And I never remember getting angry at anybody. Nobody hassled you about money. And it was the thing that now people, you know, when you get to be in your 50s or 60s and you finally get money, then you want to create that somewhere else far away, you know, and then the cycle begins again.
A's was an integral part of the downtown New York art scene. At A's, artists and writers such as David Wojnarowicz, Vern Porter, and Richard Hambleton mixed with the musicians John Zorn, Frank Lowe, Phoebe Legere, Wide Pants, and Glenn Branca.
Today's ballroom, cabaret, electronic fusion, etc. Thank you, Idiot Orchestra. Idiot Orchestra will be back. Next is Tamayo Sazaki's famous tape called Bubbling. And everybody will get a piece of bubble gum, and we hope you can participate during and after seeing the tape Blowing Bubbles.
You know, Arlene was to me like a whirlwind and at the same time like, you know, like a roller coaster. I mean, you know, she was going up and down to connect all these people and, you know, literally, you know, running through this space here and trying to do the best, you know, so everybody could have a good seat. Everybody would be fed with this art, you know, everybody would be able to connect to art that they hadn't connected before. And she was like the you know, like a dancer.
We're the Idiot Orchestra, and we're going to do a duet number.
Such an incredible amount of energy in this area at that time. And you know something, this area has always had that energy attached to it. Back in the 60s, in the, you know, like this part of Manhattan, right on up through the East Village, the 10th Street galleries, you know, Tompkins Square Park, the realist, Paul Krasner. I mean, you know, this place has probably kind of some magical, you know, energy, which brings me to A's, because I felt A's was kind of like this, you kind of Dada, Fluxist, localist thing, and it just kind of, because of Arlene, it just kind of exploded. And you had everything here. And the crowd was totally diverse, which was so unusual in those days. I mean, that's one thing that was very unique about A's. It had lots of women in it, and it had lots of people of color in it. And in 1980, that was a major deal.
It's almost anybody that you heard about in the performance world at that time, either they played at A's. A's was like the Ed Sullivan Show in a sense of the performance world. In order to be there and to have some recognition, you had to have done A's.
If you had a choice of dying from a nuclear holocaust, or a heroin overdose, oh wow, which would you choose? Just joking, the question is, what does Keith Richards and Iggy Pop have in common? Know the answer, okay, don't tell anybody. We're keeping the lines open. The first 15 listeners calling will win tickets to see the Stones and a chance at the Madness. $10,000 prize. Gotcha. It's 2:30. School's out. It's a beautiful day. Well, I promised it to you. I said I got.
We did the Ricky Paul show at A's. Post New Year's review with Ricky Paul, Barbie Allen, Joe Hanky Hannon, and the Nips. Well, this was my fake band. And I think really important is the notion was it was supposed to be fun. I mean, the idea is that you go to this thing and you're going to have fun and loosen up and you dance. And I mean, the idea that like 1 minute it's a performance, but it merges into a party. And I thought that was pretty important at that time to not worry too much about this form, not get too precious. Yeah, performance art. The idea that you're making something that's just going to come and it's going to go, like the weather. It's not important to keep it, save it, review it, make a career out of it, get rich by it, any of that shit. It was just like you're just doing it, and it's a piece, and it comes and it goes, and that's what it is. You don't have to do anything more than that.
Arlene was a big organizer, getting large groups of people together, doing lineups, being able to put a show together of diverse and numerous talent has been a long-lasting influence.
I'm a very good friend of Arlene Schloss, who is a mentor and someone that I've traveled with and I've shown here. We did the show in 1985, but I knew Arlene since 1982. And she organized and curated this show of major Asian and Asian American artists because she believed that this was the whole kind of globalization of where art should be. Immigrant artists coming to New York and passing through, but most of the artists in the show lived here. They worked together. We hung out together, and it was a real kind of salon.
That's the early Asian American show. Yeah, 85.
May 26, 1985.
At that time, I do street art too. The other thing is, before it's called A Gallery, right? Yeah. And it's not just, as I remember, it's not just a gallery, it's a kind of event and, music, is, a hangout place, a network,
Welcome to A Gallery, 330 Blue Street, Manhattan, just off Bowery. We're presenting the Friend Show, with works from 140 artists from all over the world. And we have some artists with us here today. One of the artists in the show is video and visual artist Willie Sharp.
My piece is right up from here. The portrait of George Orwell.
And the multitude of the Friends show, there were pictures hanging from the ceiling to the floor. And I guess honestly, if you wrap Arlene up in one general kind of way, that's how many people she knows.
You know, even as Arlene was creating this, you could feel her shifting, you know, away from it and moving out into other realms.
I started in the early 80s, actually, using laser in performance and wanted to express language ideas using this kind of light that had the same kind of rhythm that the sound work had that I was doing. I also worked with scientists who developed a dress out of fiber optics. Situations in performance that were kind of about the absurdity using new technology, such as a fiber optic dress, wearing a plastic dress where the color was moving that was light. The color itself was light, not, material. My most recent work, entitled AE Blah Blah Blah, which came from Ars Electronica, Bruckner House, Linz, Austria, is an opera cabaret which began at 6 o'clock a.m. and ended at 12 o'clock midnight.
Ars Electronica was one of the oldest international festivals focusing around electronic art and digital art. It's based in Linz, Austria. There's several others that exist in the United States. There's CGRAV. But Ars Electronica is really a leading edge, one of the most early ones. And it became, a mecca for international artists who were looking to make art with new tools and new technology.
I think it's sort of funny because I was coming from the background of performance art, which is mixing a good deal of media. And I think after performance art happened in the 70s, now I feel it's a time where the forms that are more developed can be mixed together. I see myself in the project sort of as like an art director in the project and working on coordinating different aspects, and the different people in the project are coordinating their own things or their own art and work in their own discipline and mixing that. I see myself like as a DJ mixer kind of thing.
She was taking on new technology and utilizing it, in a way that created something that someone hadn't seen before. What she did is she kind of combined a little bit of everything. So she's got her interest in the lasers, and she was also using, just the spoken word. She was using movement. She was using music.
Upstate, downstate, in-state, reinstate.
The opera is developed in 3 parts. Part 1 begins at 6 o'clock a.m. in the morning with a 6-hour radio show. Part 2 is the afternoon, which is Letterland. And part 3 is the opera cabaret concert.
And it was something to see her conduct it all. And that's what she was doing. She was conducting it all. Of course, she had it set out. She had it laid out the way it was supposed to go. It was a great experience. It was a great experience for me and the musicians I brought along, because they still remind me about this project. She told me, she said, "Butch, I want this music to be like this, and it's got to be strong because these letters are going to be going into my mouth." And I'm going, what?
A solid look at xenon, xenon fluoride, xenon chloride, xenon iodide, blue Greek wavelength, 350 nanometers. Seething fireball, a seething fireball, a seething fireball hurtling along, always changing, still in sight, not a moment to be lost. Starlight, starlight, starry night. The legend of Letterland in laser letter fields.
I mean, you know, there was some great stuff. I had no idea this was going to go on. This guy's going to set himself on fire and then roller skate by the Danube. I mean, it was gorgeous. You know, I mean, it was just gorgeous, gorgeous. Things were happening all over the time. I mean, all over the place. And then there became this focus. And the focus wasn't necessarily on Arlene, it was on what Arlene had set up to do.
Kunst. I don't know why. I don't know. Do you know why?
It's going to be like being in an outdoor New York club, except on the grounds in Austria.
What advice do I have for a young person?
Yeah.
To find out what they believe and then to do it. Very possibly doing that, something new will happen.
I mean, this is a perfect example, right, of sound. I mean, Cage was one of those people who was using silence as a rhythm and at the same time using these, what I would call live sounds, you know, of real life, incorporating this. This is a very Brechtian kind of idea, you know, to incorporate, you know, real sound and put that into pieces. So there was another connection with Arlene. It's like chance, you know, the way that Cage used chance in his movies, me being very intrigued by what is chance and what is really preconceived things. And you have to be like an open vessel in order to make art, you know. So to have chance occur, you need to be open-minded. You need to be like an open person.
Now, in Eastern thought, the idea of the separation of God and man, doesn't exist. As I told you at the beginning, mind with a little m and mind with a big M. Or you can say, where is the center of the universe? And in the Eastern thought, you will say, where isn't it? It's everywhere.
There was a period of time when there were television companies, production companies, and networks that were looking for new ideas. And they were reaching out to various artists to kind of bring those new ideas back in. And Arlene was right on the cutting edge there of working with video. Nickelodeon loved her work and had her come in and do a lot of projects. There was a window of opportunity for a while for artists to make work for television, certainly PBS. And it was a chance to be able to help finance your work, your own work, without grant funding or without, you know, taking the money out of your pocket or without doing some kind of menial job like a lot of guys drove taxis. You know, you could actually get a real salary doing work that you loved and being creative. So that was exciting. I had been hired by IRS Media. They hired me to produce this television series, which was a rock and roll dance show. And they wanted it to be a contemporary American bandstand, but with an underground artist influence. And I had seen work that Arlene had done with lasers projected on people moving and on her own mouth. And it seemed to me this would be a great way to open the show. I talked to Arlene. She developed an entire opening. It was a hot opening. People loved it. Every Saturday noon, you could see Arlene, It's Dance ID. And I think she even helped with coming up with the title, if I'm not mistaken. Every kind of job Arlene did fed her work. So she was a teacher. She worked with little kids. From that, she knew what kids liked, what kids wanted, how they sounded. Arlene, in a lot of ways, it has a childlike innocence to her and to her work. I think a lot of that, grew out of her work with children. Then she did some work for Nickelodeon. She knew what kids liked. She had a real sense. Arlene was very much in touch with her child self, I think, and could do work that could appeal to children. And it was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous on TV. Doing a 9-to-5 job wasn't even an option. Arlene's a true artist. She was a painter. She was a teacher, but a teacher works, 9 to 3 and has the summers off. That's a very different kind of job. And she just made films all the rest of the time, and she ran her A's.
I left New York City, Manhattan, and went to
Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, California, and Florida. Miami, Key Largo, Nashville, Memphis, Graceland, Hot Springs, Tahlequah, Heavener, Amarillo, Hereford, Santa Fe, Flagstaff, Salt Lake, Las Vegas, San Francisco, LA. Ozark Country, Western Heritage, Symbols of Survival.
In June 1982, I began a project to realize a pure tuning system for orchestral and chamber ensemble works.
Branca is an example of sheer determination of one person to be followed by the others.
The tuning is a mere reflection of the actual complex tones which make up the ideal harmonic structure of the physical wave energy produced by a vibrating string. This system necessitated the design and construction of instruments which could be tuned directly to the exact intervals of the first 7 octaves of the harmonic series, 127 intervals.
40 cycles.
In the 1990s, Ars Electronica figured prominently for Arlene once again. In 1993, Schloss directed and produced From Kepler to Cyberspace, a documentary featuring the pioneers of the Internet, AI, and virtual reality, including John Perry Barlow, Dr. Marvin Minsky, Jaron Lanier, and the visionary writers Timothy Leary, William Gibson, and Terence McKenna.
So that although we're talking about virtual realities and simulated intelligence and things like that, I think it's important to understand that our connection with the real world is very thin. And our connection with the artificial world is going to be more intimate and, I suppose, more satisfying, whatever that means, than anything that has come before.
Yeah, I remember Arlene was really tuned into, the digital art as it was manifesting in the early 90s, even before with her work in the 80s with Ars Electronica. She always sort of spontaneously was on the leading edge. She was always focusing on that.
One of Arlene's talents is really the diversity of her creative expression. She's been involved in performance art, in video, in mail art, in cyber art in the early days when it was called that, versus it's now called digital art or computer art. She was always exploring and trying to become part of all of those different groups, and her work was really innovative, and so she gained quite a good reputation in the field.
Just a year later, Arlene exhibited her first and only retrospective at the Städtische Gallery in Buntentor, Bremen, Germany.
I'm showing a history of works, of artworks that I've created throughout my life here at the Städtische Gallery in Buntentor. And I'm also working on an interactive project with the students from the Hochschule für Kunst.
I was also invited as a guest professor in Bremen at the Academy. And to my greatest joy, there was Arlene having a retrospective of her work. A big retrospective, actually, really incorporating many pieces of art and incorporating some of the things we've been talking about, like the cage piece, the alphabet piece. It had huge photographs. It had many live sound events that she was doing, and it was a really fantastic, exhibition. And I could also witness again how she there was inspiring these young students, to start checking this out, really coming to know about these kind of movements and going back, from cage to the new wave, Arlene being this kind of mediator between the world of John Cage and the world of Glenn Branca, really. And, being an artist on her own, making these works and inspiring young people and students to do the same. And the exhibition was big. It really incorporated many rooms, and it had her not only the alphabet pieces, but also some live sound events, and she was doing lecturing. So yes, that was, a grand show that Arlene did in Germany, in Bremen.
Her work is you can't separate her work from her producing, from her concept, from her sense of fashion, from her involvement with music. It's all kind of rolled into. It's almost like, I know Arlene makes individual pieces, but the pieces are like one piece evolving over time, and everything's kind of included in it, just like a bigger and a bigger ball. So I think Arlene's work is best understood and maybe mostly misunderstood, because it's hard to look at a single part and try to interpret it without looking at the whole series, at the whole picture. When you look at the whole picture, it's pretty profound,
Once upon a time, the university was very universal love letter. It was very slippy.
falling into a deep slumber? Once or twice started to write, but there were no images or sounds. Zilch zero, what's a love letter without images or sounds? A gorilla's own infinity zugzwang. Once you get inside a letter will get inside you. So, as the universe was considering the state of the letter, wondering whether or not the making of a letter would be worthy of orchestrating its steps to construct a theme, when suddenly a feeling appeared and said, I really love you, you know? I really love you.
I think there's some very brave souls in the, Arlene being one of them, in the art world who encourage this kind of pure, it's a spiritual thing where there is no concern for the material bullshit, and instead thinking, where's the pure creativity? And going after that, you then encourage each other to do that.
I'm not happy. We're both 25 years older, but which is tragic because we're the same age that we were then in our minds, you know. So.
However, we are still alive. That's how I look
Yeah.
at it.
Plus, we're not dead yet.
Exactly.
Is a major plus.
Exactly.
नमामि धन्वन्तरिम् आदिदेवम् सुरासुरैर्वन्दितपादपद्मम् लोके जरारोग्यमृत्युनाशम्
I don't know, you name it, and it's all, I mean, she was right there at the beginning with the video and the performance, the language performance thing. In Vito Conchi did language poetry things very early. Arlene was doing that very early. She did the color Xerox, got really involved with all that before, you know, at the very early stages. The cyber thing, she was at the beginning of that. I mean, what she did with A's was like nobody else has ever done since.
You know what it is that Arlene she sees something that could be developed in someone. She has a way of bringing the best out of a person. And she did that with me. We collaborated together on a lot of things.
I think a lot of what Arlene did was very selfless. And was very much into promoting other people. Always was like, you know, she would promote A's, but she wouldn't promote Arlene. And she would promote to like the death, some group that nobody had ever heard of, or some artist or some friend. I mean, she was always, she was great for that. Great for connecting people. That's why you said, who did I meet through her? Because I know that I must have met a lot of people because that's what she did. She connected all these different worlds. She was the hub.
But in reality, there was all these people and personalities and individuals that created and did great things and oftentimes are forgotten. So it's important to bring out the history of the people as well. Because a lot of times the people are really the pillars to what happens in the society, or to the big guys. The big guy wouldn't be there without all the little pillars below him. So you take away the pillars, you don't have the big guy. The big guy is really an illusion. And so it's all the pillars that really make up the guts of the whole thing. And that's part of what's doing the books and, part of this whole thing about doing a video on Arlene, because she's a pillar and a player and a contributor and a changer and somebody who's had a great influence on this culture. And it's time that she got recognized for it.
A Beethoven, Vivaldi, Chopin, chopstick conduct. DEFG Haydn, IJ Korsakov, Mendelssohn, Modest Mozart, and Overture Philharmonic, Q Rachmaninoff, Ravel, Schiller, Sonata, Symphony, Tchaikovsky, Treble UV, Wagner, XY Winning. Film self-tape upstairs volunteers wonderful Advent Darlene budget curate. David education function gels handy idea junior Kaylee mailer no open. Piano Q room 6 space 13th utilized video walls X-ray yodel Z. Audio box ceiling duly equipped freight gratis half-inch jar. K-Love multi-intervally physical. Q-Rent series tickets understandable V Wonder X Yesus. Aquatin Faro, composition dry point, engraved fraction graphic Holmes Intaglio Jr., K lithograph mezzotint non-porous original planograph, Q reproduction silk screen technique unstable V woodcut, chairs founders gauzy, AB cybernetic dialogue epic FG history invent Janus Cribs lavalier mini Nubicon overlap playback, Q raw Sony triangle U-Bow wows. Americans by Cibachrome Dive Advent Darlene budget curate. David education function gels handy idea junior Kaylee mailer no open. Piano Q room 6 space 13th utilized video walls X-ray yodel Z. Audio box ceiling duly equipped freight gratis half-inch jar. K-Love multi-intervally physical. Q-Rent series tickets understandable V Wonder X Yesus. Aquatin Faro, composition dry point, engraved fraction graphic Holmes Intaglio Jr., K lithograph mezzotint non-porous original planograph, Q reproduction silk screen technique unstable V woodcut, chairs founders gauzy, AB cybernetic dialogue, epic FG history, and then jazz.
Thank you so much, Stuart. And that was really lovely and great to revisit Arlene's, something. And yeah, and Stuart, if you want to, yeah, maybe we'll bring it. Do you want to stand or do you want to bring a seat up? So any comments or questions to Stuart? Yeah. Please be our guest. And we can pass the microphone around if anyone has, because we're streaming. So if you don't talk to the microphone, we won't hear you. And maybe Stuart wants to say something.
Well, thank you again for coming. We have Lauren Rose, a really great composer here. So thank you for him and Gracie Manchin had a great interview. She was one of our first ones. Really, thanks a lot, everybody. And as you see, it took a long time. A lot of it was, research versus talking to Arlene, and then she'd say, we got to talk to this person, that person. And I'm like, I don't know who that person is. And she would explain it, and she would show me her archive, and we just say, she had 600 hours of VHS tapes, and so we went through all of them one summer, fast forwarding. So, and we tried our best to get to the original footage, but a lot of that is from those VHS tapes.
So do we have,
So how long were you working on this before Arlene had the accident?
Well, I wouldn't say consecutive years, but I had started my interviews in 2008, and then I stopped and came back and forth. So yeah, it was 20, then she had the accident, then I stopped and I helped her out, helped her family out with, she still had people renting this space and so forth. But yeah, it took a while. And so we stopped for a while, and then COVID happened. And that actually, in a way, got us back into it. I had a few friends who said, okay, let's make this, let's do this.
and she's still alive, correct? How is she doing?
She's doing okay. I mean, she's in a senior center, as you saw there in Roosevelt Island. She is bedridden. She has a brain injury, so she doesn't really get out much, but she kind of knows what's going on, I think.
More questions or comments for Stuart?
Thank you for the great film, but has she seen it?
Yeah, she has. I went to her place and showed her on my laptop, and she seemed to understand, and she was looking at it, yeah. Oh, great, yeah.
Can you describe a little bit more about what it takes to put all that together? Like, what was the budget, what was the source of funding, and et cetera?
What it took to put it together?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I started by really researching all of her materials. We went through files and the VHS tapes, and then I thought I was just going to do it about 80s, but then she told me about all this other artwork she did, and I decided to make it historic. And so as you see here, as technology changes or art changes, so that was the strain of it, so all of a sudden she talks about lasers, ars electronica, and I had asked what ars electronica mean, and she was like, oh, I was invited and I'm just there, so I had to really look up, okay, what does ars electronica mean? Was it really important? As she said, and it was, but there were certain things like that. I mean, she would say something, and she was very excited about the people that she knew and all that, but I had to make it more than like a home movie, you know what I mean? So and I really wanted to have that context of the Lower East Side and showing how it was. And so that's why some of the scenes, especially in the loft, when blowing the paper tubes, I made that longer, like that was 10 seconds. Because I want the people to be saying, okay, what is it? And so Michael Keane is saying what you're hopefully thinking, what the hell is this? That type of thing. So there are certain things that I saw that went, okay, that's going to be there. So, and then the same thing with the subway footage. It was actually had a longer cut with the subway footage. So certain things I saw, I said, okay, that's going to be in. And then I knew at the beginning, I mean, Gracie had a great quote at the beginning. As soon as she said that, I got to be honest, I was like, okay, that's going to be in there. Or Todd Jorgensen saying, we're both still alive. And Arlene said that, oh, okay, that's, especially since what happened to Arlene, I thought that was something put in there. And I had scenes of her at the hospital. She has MS, so her going to treatments, and then it just, and I showed it to other people, and they were like, well, that doesn't fit. That's not really good. So there's another 20 minutes, so that's why it's cut down a little bit more.
Doesn't have to do with her practice.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, that's why the title, that's why it's great to work with collaborators and find the right people. That's why the title is The Art of Arlene Schloss. Okay, let's just keep it on that. And there are other things in her personal life that I didn't want to put in there, and the marriages and so forth, but that didn't matter as much.
Where is her archive?
Her archive is in two places. One is in the Anthology Film Archives, mostly her films, and then her videos, her papers, and photographs and so forth are at the Fields Library at New York University.
Anyone else? Comments or questions?
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the Emily Harvey Foundation for hosting us once again. And do continue to support us, Experimental Intermediate Foundation. And if you haven't donated, please donate. We lost all our funding this year except for private funding. So we're kind of bringing you these evenings like completely, almost through 100% volunteer work and stuff. And there was like things that were planned. So thank you for coming. And tomorrow we have the last fabulous evening of our March series, which is April 1st, which is the films of Anton Parrish, who you might know, videographed or filmed a lot of the Warhol scene at Max's Kansas City, etc. So there's a whole selection of his films tomorrow, same time, same place here, so 7 p.m. at the Emily Harvey Foundation. So thank you for coming, and
Oh, yeah.